So we have this question here. XYZ Limited operates a single outlet selling directly to customers. The company incurs both fixed and variable costs, and management needs a better understanding of cost behavior to improve decision making. Financial data for the past 6 months is provided. So we have the information here for the 6 months. We have the sales information, cost of sales information, selling and distribution, and administration costs. Using the least squares regression method, estimate the variable and fixed components for the following costs: cost of sales, selling and distribution costs, and administration costs. Okay, so before we start answering this question, we have to understand what is happening here. So, the management for this company wants to split their costs into fixed and variable costs. Colleagues, what are fixed costs? Or should I say management accountants? Because I believe everyone here is a management accountant. So, management accountants, what are fixed costs? Madam Karen, Mr. Matthew, Madam Blessings? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, costs which are not dependent on output. Whether you produce, yes, 1 unit, 0 units, the fixed cost will still stay the same. Best example, rent. Rent is not dependent on how much you produce. It will stay the same. Okay. Yes. Even supervisors' salaries, those are also fixed costs. Certain salaries are fixed. Okay. Then what about variable costs? Ish. Variable costs. Anybody, Mr. Matthews? Maybe you can also tell us variable costs. Yes, they change with output. The more you produce, the higher they are. The less you produce, the less they are. Now remember, management accounting is all about making decisions. Cost accounting is all about tracking and analyzing costs. So what happens? The cost accountant gets the information, provides it to the management accountant, and then you make your decision. So with variable costs, you can control them, okay? Because variable costs, you know, if you produce more, you incur more of them. If you produce less, you incur less of them. So you can control variable costs. Fixed costs, they're not that you can't really control them, okay? Like, for example, rent, you can control the rent that you'll be paying for your factory or your business there, right? But mostly it's the variable costs which you can deal with. So here in this question here, all right, these costs, cost of sales, selling and distribution, and administration, want to separate them into their variable component and their fixed component. And the method that we're going to be using to do that is the least squares regression. Okay. So with the least squares regression, all that we're going to do is form the equation of a line. Now this equation of a line, as I've written here, okay, y equals a plus bx. This is the equation that we need to form. This equation can help a company forecast, okay, and plan on their costs, okay, because the equation splits the cost into fixed costs, which are represented by A, and variable costs. So once we obtain this equation, okay, we can now forecast, okay, and we can now plan, okay. We can estimate the costs that we're going to incur, all right. So this is the whole concept here. From the information that we're given there, we're trying to put it in the form of a linear equation. Okay, when you just see a linear equation, the equation of a line. Okay, want to put everything into this equation. Before I go further, any questions? 'Cause remember, this is cost accounting, so we're moving. We have to move at a steady pace. Okay, I do not want to rush. Okay, so any questions? So what is going to happen here, okay, with these costs that we've been given, okay? Part A, part A1, we have to look at the cost of sales, okay? So the information that we'll be interested in to make our linear equation is our sales. Sales is always going to represent the X variable, okay? Sales or any form of money will usually represent the X column. The Y column, always remember this, colleagues, okay, because you'll be given information, then you'll be deciding which one should be my X, which one should be my Y. Just remember this, your Y is always your costs, okay? When you're doing this least squares regression method, your Y is always going to be your cost. X can be your sales, it can also be output, okay? But just remember, Y is always the cost. So here, we need first determine our X, and then our Y will be cost of sales. Okay. So for part one, the only information that we need to do our least squares regression method is sales and cost of sales. For part two, for selling and distribution, okay, there you'll just be focusing on sales and selling and distribution only. Okay, there your selling and distribution will be your Y. When dealing with administration costs, you'll be looking at sales and administration costs. So basically, let me illustrate what I am talking about. So we are starting with part one. Okay, we have to estimate the variable and fixed components for cost of sales. Okay, so you just make a table like this, colleagues. Oh, well, before we even go to that table, yes. B, which represents the variable costs, this is how you get your B. You're going to use this formula. Do not panic, colleagues. This formula will be provided in the exam for you. Okay. N is just the number of items we're looking at. Okay, here you just count. Okay, January, February, March, April, May, June. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So n is going to be equal to 6. Here, summation of x multiplied by y. What's going to be happening here, colleagues? I am going to multiply your x value by your y value. After you multiply them, you get the total. This E that you're seeing here, sigma, okay, it just means you're totaling up things, okay? You're totaling up things, okay? Like here, sigma x, it means the x values, you just total them up. Sigma y, the y values, which is cost of sales, you just total them up, okay? Sigma x squared, your x values, you square them, then you total them up. Do not worry, I'll be doing, as I'm solving, I'll also be illustrating from the formula here. Okay, sigma x squared, square your x value, total it up. Then this sigma x means the total of your x values squared. So you always have to find your fixed costs first. Why? Because in the formula for the variable costs, you can see here B. Is your fixed costs here, okay? And then here, summation of y, the total of your y values, summation of x, total of your x values. Okay. So that's how you interpret this formula. It's very important you know how to interpret this formula. Okay. Where you see sigma totaling up. Okay. Yes. Any questions before I start solving? Uh-huh. QM, yes. Yes. Yes, you can easily find it on the calculator. You can also use Excel. But when you're presenting it in the assignment, you have to show the table and your tabulations. In the exam, yes, it's easy. Just get on your calculator, put everything. But assignments, the lecturer wants to know where certain figures are coming from. But I'm happy at least you've remembered from QM. Okay. So this should be easy even then. Okay. This should be easy then. Okay. So any other questions before we start? Okay, yes. You just form a table like this. Let me get this table from here. So we can use Excel so that we make life easier. Okay. So here it's not activity level. Here it's going to be sales. Here it's not going to be total cost, it's going to be cost of sales. So our Y is cost of sales, Our X is sales. Here we need to put the month. So colleagues, here's a question for you. Which one is affecting, which one is the independent one and which one is the dependent one? Between, if you look at the relationship between sales and cost of sales, which one do you think is independent and which one is dependent? If you sell more, will your cost of sale? Oh, okay, yes. Not cost of sales is dependent on the sales. Explain, madam. Maybe you can be correct. You can explain your thinking on that one as I'm putting the information here. Why do you say that, madam? Why do you agree with me? Or how much we're going to sell? Okay, let me just put the information in, then we begin. So, colleagues, do we remember this process for least squares regression method? Or should I do it in a baby step format where you've forgotten? I just want to know. I want to know how should we do all of you remember it? Least squares regression method? Okay. We will remember it today. Okay, we'll remember it. Okay. So let me add the final thing, final row, our row for the totals. Yes. So the first column here, as you can see, x, y, it means we're just multiplying our x value by our y value. Okay. So 75,000 by 48,000. Ooh, this is a big number. Let's see how many zeros are there. 3 Eesh, is this a billion? Yes, 3,600,000,000. Okay. It's 2,000 times 50,500. 89,000 multiplied by 52,600. Okay, you multiply all the values, all right? X times y, x times y, x times y, x times y. Are we all okay with this, colleagues? Any questions? Okay. Here in the last column, it's x squared. It means each x value you square it. So 75,000 squared. These numbers are big. Okay. 82,000 squared. 89,000 squared. Okay. You square all your x values. Okay. Then you get your figures. Okay. Yes. Any questions, queries? Okay, so after you've done that, you get your totals. Okay, first for your x values, basically this is like the total sales. Cost of sales. Yes, you get your totals. Okay, this is all the information that we need so that we can put it in our formula. All right. So once we've got this information, it's just a matter of substitution into our formula. So we need to start by getting our fixed cost component. So n in this case, n is, we say that was 6, n is 6. Let me put the formula here so that I just insert. Okay, let's see where I can get a fraction from. I'll get a fraction from here. Okay, so n summation. All right, so it's all a matter of substitution now. Which I made this formula B. Yeah. Okay. So n is 6. So it says 6 multiplied by summation of the product of x and y. Okay, so it's this value here, this 29 billion here. Colleagues, imagine this is in your bank account, 29 billion. What can you do with it? You have 29 billion in your bank account. What would be the first thing you'd get with that 29 billion? Summation of x, total of the x values, 541,000 here. Multiplied by summation of y, 324,800. N again is 6. Multiplied by summation of x squared. So this 49 billion here. This 49 billion is summation of x squared. Summation of x, 540. Okay, colleagues, let's see what our calculators will be telling us. 6 times 29 billion, 516. 6 times this number here. Then just do the whole operation, put it in brackets, minus, open brackets, this times that. Okay, at least the calculator should give you a figure which is is consumer friendly. Okay, I'm also calculating here. So we'll compare figures. I've multiplied 6 times this 29 billion. I've got, let me just write the figure down. Let's all confirm. Are we getting this figure when we multiply 6 and 29 billion? Are we all getting this figure? 177 billion. 177 billion, 98,400,000. Colleagues, are we all getting this value? And let's see, next one. 541,000. And here when I multiply these two, getting 175. Are we getting these figures, colleagues? If you're getting a different figure, let me know. If you don't have a calculator, it's always advisable to have a calculator for cost accounting. Always advisable. Never make a mistake of doing cost accounting minus a calculator and a paper and a pen. So are we getting these values, colleagues? No one is getting a different value. We're all the same. Or getting these values. Mr. Peter, are you getting those values? Madam Karen, are you getting them? You're not getting them. You're getting something different. Okay. Okay. But at least okay. Then please pay attention so you remember what's happening here. Madam Karen, are we getting those values? Okay, Madam Blessings. Or other people have been kicked out. Okay, Madam Blessings. Okay, wonderful. All right, so we multiply again here. 6 multiplied by 49. Oh, could you mute your mic, sir? Could you mute your mic? Okay, then 541,000 squared. Excuse me. Yes. So these are the figures we get. Then we subtract. Eesh, this just subtract with my calculator. So in our numerator, when we subtract, we get 1 billion. Oops. 1,381,600,000. Go to the bottom, the denominator we subtract. Okay, here. All right, then we divide. So one. Are we getting all these figures here? Those are the calculators. Confirm. Are we getting the same figures? Okay. So 1,381 divided by 37. Yes, so we're getting 0.44. Yes. Are we all getting 0.44? All right. So we've got the first part of our equation B. Any questions? Okay, now we get A. Summation of Y minus B Okay, summation of y 324,800 b is 0.44 divided by x 541,000 n is 6, so we do our multiplications here. So point 44 times 541 is 238.40. Then we subtract 328 304,800 minus 238,040. Get 86,000. Okay, 86,760 divided by 6, 14,160. So equation y equals b 0.44 plus a 14,460 x. So this equation, okay, you can estimate the cost of sales you're going to incur. Okay, x represents the number of sales as you've seen here. Okay, so you can substitute values of x. Okay, you say, okay, if we have sales of 100,000, what cost of sales are we going to incur? What would be the total cost of sales incurred? If we have sales of 50,000, what cost of sales are we going to incur? All right. So this is our cost equation showing the relationship between cost of sales, which is y, total cost of sales, y, and x number of sales. Any questions? Huh? No, we've just answered part one.